And now we're resuming what we began yesterday about um, the desert. The desert. This Shabbat will be Shabbat Mavorchim, the Shabbat, the last Shabbat of this month. And we're beginning next month, which is the month of Sivan. And that's when the Torah was given, on the 6th day of Sivan. But the Torah tells us that on the first day of Sivan, the month of Sivan, the Jewish people, they entered the desert of Sinai. And in fact, the whole Torah portion, the whole book, the next book that we're going to read, after we finish this week's Torah reading, we begin the book of Numbers, which in Hebrew, it's called Bamidbar. The first word of this week's Torah portion is Bamidbar, in the desert. In the desert. So the Rebbe asked the question, what's so important about the desert? The Torah was given in the desert. So the rabbis say, well, the Torah was given in the desert to show that the Torah is available to everybody. It's ownerless. No one can claim a monopoly on the Torah. You can't claim ownership on the Torah, that I own the Torah and nobody else can use the Torah. The Torah was given in the desert to show that the Torah has no ownership. Says the Rebbe, but that's not so. God gave the Torah to the Jews. The Torah gave it to the Jews. God gave the Torah to the Jews. The Torah belongs to the Jews. Morasha Kilat Yaakov. It said is the inheritance, the possession, the property of the Jewish people. Why is the idea of being stressed in the desert? The main thing should be that it was given on the mountain. Oh, that's good. It was given on Mount Sinai. That's the main thing. What is this thing of the desert of Sinai? Midbar Sinai. So obviously there must be a big lesson over here. What's the lesson? Here we go. We have to explain first. Hayachas, the connection, the relationship, and the importance of makom ba'olam, of the place in the world where the Torah was given. On Mount Sinai, which Mount Sinai was in the desert, Sinai desert. At first glance, even since Shepulat the Torah, that the effect of the Torah is to fix up the whole entire world. Manogea, why is it so important where the Torah was given? Nitna Torah. The Yeshlom, we can say, when God chose a place, a specific place in the world, that it is fitting, the Torah, to give you the Torah, Mudgeshet, it is stressed, Hamatara, the goal, the Tachlid, and the purpose, the Pu'ulat the Torah, of what the Torah is supposed to do in the world. So the Torah is supposed to affect the whole world, but how? How is it supposed to affect the world? So it says like a desert. What's this got to do with it? We'll see. Yuvan back then, let's understand first of all, Habir b'sheichat the Torah. What's the connection of the Torah to the world? Shemud which is stressed in the Maimer, a Mishnah, what it says in Pirkei Avot, that we learned this weekend. It's a custom. There's Pirkei Avot. It's 6 chapters of. It's called Mishnah, but it's really advice. It's really holy advice. Very interesting. It says there. It says Be'esar Maimos Nivra Olam. It says with 10 utterances the world was created. So what is this idea of the Torah? What is the idea of Judaism in general? What is the idea of Judaism in general? So Judaism, of course, is one of the religions of the world. It's one of the religions. But in fact, that's only the most external way of looking at it. The fact is that Judaism is the will of the Creator. The only will. The only time the will of the Creator has ever been revealed is in the Torah. And it was revealed in public, 3 million people, everybody saw it. 3 million people. That's the will, why God is creating the world right now. Right now. Not that why he created it 1,000 years ago or even yesterday. Is why he's creating it right now. Why the world is being created right now? The Torah is the blueprint, the manufacturer's instructions, and it's also the, how do you call it, the anatomy of God and the creation. What connects the two together? The Torah. So, according to Judaism, the world is tremendously important. God is creating the world, and He creates it from the Torah. So it says the Torah tells us that the world was created with 10 utterances. Let there be light, let there be a firmament, let there be. Ita Bezor, it says in the Torah, Asara Hakaf V'Shekel HaKodesh. Later on, much later in the Torah, it talks about when the tabernacle was open for business in the desert. So all of the heads of the 12 tribes, they all brought offerings. What are they called? The inaugurational offerings. Each one brought it on his own day. They brought exactly the same thing also. And then it makes a grand total of how much it was. So it says one of the things they all brought spoons, a big spoons made of gold, whatever it is. What is it? Karat kesef. Zahab, I think it's gold or silver. I have to look and see. Anyway, it says that each one of these spoons weighed 10 units. Asara, akaf, v'shekel HaKodesh. Each one of them weighed 10. Each one weighed 10. That's the way the Torah says. It repeats the word. Asara, each one of these silver spoons or golden spoons, I've look and see, weighed 10 units. Shekel HaKodesh. Asara. Says in the Zohar, which is Kabbalistic, which looks at the Torah in a little bit deeper way, it says Asara, 2 times it says 10. Asara, there's 2 things in the Torah, notable things which are in the number 10. The 10 utterances that God created the world with, and the 10 commandments. Asara Maimoros, the 10 utterances that God created, the Maisa Bereshit, that God created the world. Like it says, but Asara Maimorot Nivra Olam, like it says, with 10 utterances, God created the world. And there's the 10 Maimoros, and then there's the 10 commandments of the giving of the Torah. Elu, what's called Asarat Divrot, they're called the 10 words. Asarat Divrot, it means the 10 commandments. Begin why? This was the Zohar. Zohar is written in Aramaic. Begin because the Alma, that this world, lo etbere, it was not created. It's in Aramaic, right? Lo etbere was not created. Ella begin, but in order, oraita, for the sake of the Torah. The only reason that there was the 10 utterances that God created the world with was in order to connect it to the 10 commandments. But call Zimna all the time. The Yisrael, that the Jewish people, mitaskeba, right, to learn the Torah. Alma mitkayam, the world, it remains in existence. Like it says, im lo briti, God said, if it wasn't for my covenant, the Torah, whereas this is a sentence in Jeremiah, if it wasn't for the Torah, im lo briti, if it wasn't for the Torah, yomim v'layla, day and night, chukot shemayim or it's the laws of nature, lo samti, I would not have made. So the world was created through the Torah and for the Torah. Messiah, and it finishes, by means of this, Eshkachach Bei Shlomo, there will be found in it. That's what the Zohar says. If the Jews learn the Torah and they incorporate the world in the Torah and the Torah in the world, then there will be completeness in the world. Al derech ma'amar, like the rabbis say, Kol Torah, the old Torah was given to make peace in the world. The inyan bezeh, by means of the 10 utterances, Shema Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, that's called the 10 commandments. Megalim, you reveal Asar Maimoros, the 10 utterances that God created the world with. Hainu, namely, Sha'olam, that this world, Eino Metziyut B'fnei Atzmo, it's really not a separate existence on its own. Shemalim, and it hides and totally conceals God. It's not that there's 2 things, God and the world. Shahari, because behold, Kol Metziyuto, the whole existence of the world is only 10 utterances. Like we said before, God did not create the world a long time ago. God created the world. Okay, He did create the world a long time ago, but the long time ago, He created it from nothing. So the world is made from nothing. So it's not that God made the world and He made something, and now that something is really something. It's even the something that we see the world is made from nothing. It's made from zero. So you take a billion zeros, a trillion zeros, you still have zero. The world is an infinite number of zeros, but it's all zero. How does the world exist? God brings it into existence. It's a big miracle. And God brings it to existence by means of these 10 utterances that God made when he created the world in the beginning from nothing. So he's doing the same thing right now. So the world really has no independent existence on its own. And for sure, it cannot conceal God. Why does it seem to conceal God? Because that's what God wants. But as soon as we see that the whole existence of the world comes from God, and the reason that God is doing it is in order that we should reveal him through the 10 commandments, the Torah, that by means of the 10 utterances, the world was created and is being created from nothing and zero, really, in the 6 days of creation. But God renews the world every single instant, Talmud, constantly, Maisa Bereshit, the existence of the world, the Ilu, Hoyu Mistaklin, and if Stalkos, and if God's creative force would leave the world, God forbid, or Otiot, the letters that God created the world with, if it would stop for one instant, the world would go back to nothing. Like it was in the beginning, really. So the words that God spoke when he created the world, these words are above time. They created time. They create time. So it's not that they're creating time constantly. The words of God are creating the whole concept of constantly, of meaning, of time, of past, present, future. It's just creation. We can't understand what that is, but it's true. And that's what the Torah comes to reveal, how incredibly precious and valuable this world is, every detail, because God is creating everything, every detail intentionally. In more detail, is a continuation of the Mishnah, with 10 utterances. God created the world. Why does God say the world was created in 10 utterances? Why? God could have created the world in one utterance. What is God that? It's okay. God says, "Let there be light." Right? Let there be a firmament. Let there be grasses in the world. Right? You know how many different type of grasses there are in the world? God created in the world hundreds of. Ask botanists, whatever. Who knows? Hundreds of thousands of species and genuses, whatever they're called, genii of species, categories of plants and different types of plants and underwater plants and this type of plants. Because with one word, God created all this amazing diversity of plants. The same thing, God created animals. 6th day of creation, God created animals. So God created animals. You know how many different types of animals there are? Cats with bugs. With this created, no bugs, I guess, are flying things. Animals, there are billions and billions, infinite, with one word. So it says, so if so, God could create billions of diverse creations with one word, different types of animals, different types of plants. So why does there have to be 10? To make it easier on him, right? Divide infinity by 10, then it's a little bit easier. You have only 1/10 of infinity you have to work on. That's ridiculous. So why did God have to create the world with 10 utterances? He could have just said, let there be a world, and that's it. All the diversity comes from one word. Why did it have to be 10 utterances? It says, why? It says, couldn't have God created the world with just one utterances? With one word? It says, the hektim, we can say, who wrote, if God wanted to create everything, so he, I'm sorry. Because God could have created the world with one utterance. So if so, it's a known question. If God could have created the world with one utterance, one just say world, lama I'm sorry, I skipped. Oh, here it is. But Pratios Musa, it says, with 10 utterances, God created the world. Why does it say that God created the world with 10 utterances? Could not have God have created the world with one utterances? That's what we are. Ella, but this is what the Mishnah says. Why did God create the world with 10 utterances? Liparam in Rishoyim, to give punishment to the evil people. Shemavdim et olam, that they destroy the world that was created with 10 utterances. And to give a good reward to the righteous people that they sustain the world that was created with 10 utterances. In other words, God could have created the world with one utterance, but he created with 10 to show that he put a lot of effort into creating the world, and the world is very important. He just didn't create one world and say word. They would say, world, that's it, world. And then he just did other things. No. God created with 10 utterances. He took time and he said, let there be light, let there be a firmament, let there be this, let there be dry land, let there be animals. Everything was created in to show that God put a big effort into it. Now, if a person decides he wants to destroy the world, now God will get really mad at him. Why? Because they'll say, you know how much effort I put into the world? I could have created with one utterances, but I created with 10 utterances, and now I'm going to give you a punishment. And people who do what's right, God says, wow, you put a lot of effort into it, but I put more in for the world is really important to me, and you helped me create it. That's why I created it. That's what it says in the Mishnah. It says, one second, that doesn't make any sense. Kaven, since if God could have created the world with one utterance, so Lomi Onish, why should there be a punishment on the world that was created with 10 utterances? Kishe Shavin, when the true value of the world is just one utterance. If God wanted to create the world with utterances, so why should the evil person get punished? Mutal ala Rashel, in the Hebrews B'maimer, ain't a davar mutal ala Rasha v'lo ala tzaddik. That God created the world with 10 utterances, that's he decided on his own. It doesn't make any sense how much the world is worth, right? How much the world is worth. It's like, let's say somebody says, maybe I'll give an example. You step on some guy's lawn, right? The guy comes out with a shotgun. You stepped on my lawn. I'm sorry, it was a mistake. I didn't mean to do it. You know how much trouble I put in that? I went all the way to India, and I didn't just go. I swam all the way to India in order to buy these lawn seeds. And I swam all the way back, and I planted them. That's how valuable the lawn is. You say this is, what do you have to do that for? Just go down to the corner and buy grass seeds. It'll take you 2 minutes to walk down there, and a pack of lawns seeds costs $5. What did you have to swim all the way down there for? To show you how much effort I put into making this lawn. It's so important to me. The guy it doesn't make any sense. What did you do with it like that? The lawn is not worth more because you decided to put more effort into it and do things which were totally unnecessary. You had to swim to India to buy seeds, lawn seeds, right, in order to come back. That doesn't make any sense. The same thing with the world. God said, hey, the evil people, you are destroying the world because I created with 10 utterances. So create it with one utterance. You didn't have to create it with 10. It says in the Mishnah you could have created with one utterance. I'm supposed to get a punishment because you decided to make extra. It doesn't make any sense. Says the Rebbe, Yesh Lomar Abior. The explanation is like this: that when God created the world, in fact, he did it in two ways. First of all, he created the world with one utterance. And also he created the world with 10 utterances. Our whole example we gave of swimming to India and etc. is not accurate. In fact, in order to create the world, God purposely used two processes. One is utterance. This is that God created existence, something that seems to be separate from him. Spiritual, physical, animals, plants, whatever, no details, just existence. The facts that things can exist and seem separate from God. Yesh me'ayin, something from nothing, from absolute zero, a thing. That's called a Chomer Harishon, the first existence. Scientists are looking for the black hole or for the original, whatever it is, absolute zero or the absolute vacuum, whatever it's called. It says this is it. It's called the first substance, undifferentiated. Sheshava b'kol nivron, that's there in all creations in the world. Right? That's one thing that I have in common with the angels, with the plants, with the rocks. We all exist. That's sometimes called Soviv Kol Omim, how God surrounds all the world. It's equal everywhere. existence. Ubasara Maimoros, but when God created the world with 10 utterances, then he started getting into the details. Nidgala Hatsura, then there was a form, the call individual form of every single creation, Shemocholeket, that's divided one to the other by means of Hitchalkut, being separate of the 10 utterances. Kolel, including also the Tzirufim, the Chiluki all these letters of creation and how they are. The Kabbalah talks about a lot how they're in the what's called the 231 the gates, Panim va'achor. Says if you take the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet and you arrange them, we take Aleph, for instance, and then put it with the other 22, and then take Beis and put it with the other 22, and then Gimel with the other 22. So it comes out to be, I think, 22 factorial, and it comes out to be 231. You can count it out. In any case, all of these numbers, and this is units of creation, like it talks about in the book Sefer Yetzirah. By means of this was created all of the details of the creation. Oh, so what's the Rebbe saying? God wants there to be a world. So everything in the world has two aspects. One, they're all exactly the same. They exist. Number two, everything is different. Every atom is different, if for no other reason that every atom is in a different place. There can't be two atoms in the same place, right? They're separate. So everything is separate. Everything is different. Everything is different from everything else. Everything is different. And on the other hand, everything is exactly the same. They're all existing. They exist. They partake of this quality, which is called existence. Like I say, in Hasidut, it's called Mamali Kolmim and Soviv Kolmim. Mamali Kolmim is how everything is different, and Soviv Kolmim is how everything is exactly the same to God. They all exist. They seem to be separate from God. That's what God wants. Wants a world. Okay, since that God could create the world with one utterance, and he did create the world with one utterance, namely, he made something which seems to be separate from him, and separation, an existence from nothing, since that the creation, yesh mi'ayin, something from nothing, is in a way of kiruv, v'hitlabshut, and it is not in a way of closeness. It's not that God is close to it. God wants the world to be separate. Wants the world to be a separate existence, or to seem to be a separate existence. This is in a way of richuk v'havdalah, that God created a separate yesh, existence from himself, that is not any. Now, this is a bit difficult to understand because we're talking about faith. What we're saying is that our existence comes from nothing. So I'm made from nothing, and you're made from nothing. This is impossible to feel. As soon as we start feeling we're something, how can I feel that I'm really nothing? It's a contradiction in terms. If I can't be nothing, how could it be I am nothing? And so therefore, the fact that God is creating, just that there's a creation, this automatically conceals God totally. This is the ability of God in one utterance to create something, an existence. But God's ability to create something from nothing. The power of God's essence. That's the story of the Bible, right? The story of the Bible is that God, who is reality, created a world which is also reality. How can it be separate from God? That's the whole Torah. That's the story of Torah. That's what God did. So we're saying God is all there is God, and he created an existence that's separate from him, and which is impossible, but nothing can be separate from God. So that it seems to be separate from God. This is the power of God's essence. The lo metziut anivra. This is not really a creation. Because really the creation, after it's created, is really made from nothing. It's only the revelation of God's power in creation of something from nothing. That's when God created the world from one utterance. When God created the world basar maimorot with the 10 utterances, called riboy, all the details, called nivra v'nivra, each and every detail with its nature and how it is created, and its individuality, its uniqueness, right? This is tall, this is small, this is short, this is a dog, this is a cat, this is a tree. Then it's stressed. The main thing is the world. So with that God created something from nothing, this is stressing the creator. And the 10 utterances, that mostly stresses the creation. With 10 utterances, God created the world. Everything is different from everything else. Shebriya told that the world is in a way, shenitan tochen, that there is put a content, a individuality, a personality, a character to everything that there is. Every detail of the world has its individual importance. Shenivru, that was created with 10 utterances. So the fact that God created everything from nothing, we're constantly reminded that of the creator, that the world just popped out from like Adam, like the first man, Adam. Where did he come from? He didn't have a mother or father. He knew he was created from God. He was created from God. Something like the birth of the world. Suddenly there's not, all there is God. When there started to become details in the world, that's a different aspect of God. That's what's called the 10 utterances. That stresses the world. That stresses what's called the 10 sfirot, these 10 aspects of God. Eser tchunot, 10 different, aspects, natures of God, good qualities of God, kindness, love, etc. Everything that there is in this world, which is important. Oh, so if so, the world was created and is being created right now from 2 different aspects of God. The 10 commandments, there's the world is being created by 10 utterances. That's what makes everything different. And with 1 utterance, that's what makes everything exist. Let's see what's this. Since the 10 utterances that God created the world, that corresponds to the 10 utterances of the giving of the Torah. So it must be that these 2 things, the 10 utterances of creation and the 10 utterance, that there was only one, that they stem from 1 utterance in the world, this must be also in the Torah. So just as the world is created 10, diversity, and 1, it's just one big creation. Also the same thing with the Torah. The Torah is 10 commandments, but there's also the commander. That's also the one commander, as we're going to talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Oh.